Today I'm talking about a crazy ex-girlfriend story. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that she was crazy or the story was crazy or both, probably both. And I'd also like to point out that Brie Larson is in fact not the crazy ex-girlfriend. Brie Larson's in the news again. She's in a new Nissan commercial, and all the internet media types that really dislike her are dogpiling her again because of this commercial. I saw it, and I'm not trying to defend her, even though I'm going to end up defending her. I didn't think that commercial was that bad. She takes another woman out for a drive, and the whole spiel is basically don't compromise. And apparently, people that are so upset with her over like previous interviews that she's done, they jumped inside their ambulance and just kind of went at it. Yeah, I don't compromise either. Like, I'm single. I live alone. I'm a homeowner. I own my house. I'm not paying the bank on it or anything like that. And if I had a girl here and she just started barking orders at me, like in my house, I'm like, yeah, you gotta go. Like, I'm not gonna compromise either. So, and I would just like to say that I have a theory about Brie Larson. I'm gonna get to my story, but I just want to touch base on this. I'm gonna run some pictures of Brie Larson. I figured I'm gonna give this lady some positive publicity while I tell my story. But yeah, I have a theory about her, and it's basically that behind closed doors, when the cameras aren't running, that she's a pretty decent person. I could be completely wrong. Like, maybe she's just everything that like all these other people online are saying about her, is that she's just horrible. But I almost feel like in her little Hollywood bubble, and I mean, she was basically raised in Hollywood, and I'm sure she has a very, very skewered view of the world. And, she's just kind of this, sheltered, rich, pampered superstar. But I bet you if you're in her circle of people, and if you're her type, I'm just going to, I don't know what her orientation is. I'm just going to guess that she's straight. So I'm sure she has a type. There's a guy that fits that mold. And let's say that guy, running in circles that would come across other celebrities. Maybe she sees him and she just falls head over heels for him. And, right away they're just clicking, and before you know it, they're knocking boots in the bedroom and just having a grand old time. And maybe that guy, after like weeks of curling Brie Larson's toe in just the right way, if you know what I mean, maybe he says to her,
"Hey girl, why are you always saying that crazy woke stuff in all your interviews?"
And she replies,
I don't know. It's just a thing. Like, I don't even really care. I mean, I feel like I want to be the voice for the voiceless, but, whatever. I'm just having fun.
probably something like that. She was probably surprised that she was getting dogpiled on so much. Everyone knows that famous interview for Avengers Endgame. Is that what it was called? Endgame? Infinity War I saw a bunch of times. That one was great. Endgame, that was just okay. But there was that famous interview where it's her and Chris Hemsworth, and they're just kind of sparring, and it's where that "thank you very much," where that comment came from. And, the truth of the matter is, we don't know what happened before those cameras started rolling in that interview. We don't know what happened on set between the two of them. Some people might know and they're just not talking, or things have been said and they've just been regarded as rumor. But for all we know, maybe Chris Hemsworth is her type, and maybe she kind of flirted with him and she's used to getting her own way. I think he's married, and so maybe he shot her down hard, and that was just her being butthurt in that interview. Or maybe it was the opposite, and even though Hemsworth is married, maybe he was trying to get with her and she just didn't appreciate that. She was like, "Hey, you got a wife, what's your deal?" So who knows? Nobody knows. But that's just my thoughts on her. I would totally go out on a date with her if I had the chance. And all these people that think she's just like the worst, I think they're just seeing this kind of propped up version of her. I would just find it hard to believe that she just lives 24/7 in this weird ideology. I mean, what a waste of a beautiful, talented woman if that's what she's doing. You ever see that late night talk show? I forget which one it was, if it was like Kimmel or something like that. And she had guest hosted and she was wearing that just an incredible outfit. And not only that, I mean, she looked beautiful, but she was also like, she looked like she was a lot of fun and engaging. So I don't know, maybe that was just the actress in her, but yeah, she looked great. That's the Brie Larson that I want to think about. Anyways, with that said, let me get to my story. So this happened many years ago, back when I was in my 20s. And at that time, I would definitely describe myself as being kind of dopey. Well, so I'm from a broken family. I was raised by my mom. I have a father. He wasn't around too much when I was growing up. And I'm not saying this in a negative way. I mean, it was just the way the divorce court system, established custody, right? So, but I mean, when he was around, he didn't really tell me anything anyways. He certainly didn't tell me that much about women and what to expect and quite possibly, what their nature is. Now the midgito people are kind of filling in the blanks, and I've discussed them before. I don't want to get into it too much right now. But yeah, I missed all the red flags with this one girl, and so I just want to talk about it a little bit because I don't know why it popped in my head. I think it's because I've been reading all these romance novels, and there's some things that are kind of cropping up in some of them that are kind of jarring these memories out of me. But yeah, I was in my mid-20s, and I would just describe myself as happy-go-lucky. I was just kind of having a good time in life, not taking things too seriously. And this company that I worked for, it was not a huge company, but there was like over 100 people in there. I mean, what would a small company be, like 15? Like, I've worked for companies where it's just like 15. Actually, I've worked for a company that was only like 4 people. But yeah, there was probably like around 100, 125 maybe, something like that. And no shortage of attractive women in this company. And I worked in this one area of the company all by myself. And I had my own room to myself. It wasn't an office. It was a room. It was in an electronics company. And people would stop by all the time, just to kind of hang out there. Because a lot of the time it was just me. And I think people kind of used that area I was in almost as like an escape. Like sometimes they would just kind of cruise in there and kind of put their feet up for 5 minutes or so. And they would kind of vent to me about what was going on, in their department. And on occasion, like sometimes some pretty attractive girls would just kind of stop on by, just say, good morning, stuff like that. I didn't think about it too much. And so after about 5 months or so, there was a girl who just started coming around quite a bit. So this is red flag number 1 that I missed, which is, you don't want to date people that you work with. Now, granted, this was a different time. I mean, this was like 20 years ago. So, the whole Me Too thing, didn't exist back then. You didn't really worry about allegations, like false allegations and sexual assault claims against you, things of that nature. So there was this one girl, she just started coming around, and she was very attractive. She was a cute girl. She was definitely my type. She was petite, a brunette, quite curvy. And she was just kind of flirty. But I always thought that from what little I'd seen of her, that she was just kind of like that. Like, I was kind of dopey and she was kind of flirty, and when the two of us were interacting, it was just fun. Well, I wouldn't say that she tricked me, but she kind of tricked me in this regard. She figured out when my birthday was. And so leading up to it, I think her birthday was around the same time as mine. I don't remember exactly, but I remember as we continued to kind of talk to one another and she was getting more flirtatious, she started saying that for her birthday, she wanted me to just take her away for a weekend. And me just, again, being just kind of happy-go-lucky and kind of dumb, I guess. I was like, well, that's weird. I mean, we're not even dating. I was clueless. And so she had figured out when my birthday was. And I remember I showed up for work, and there was like a wrapped present, and I think there was even like a little cake and a card there. So I don't know who, I guess she asked one of my coworkers who I was friends with at the time, and he had kind of filled her in on some of those personal details about me. And so she went out and did all these things. And then I was like, oh, wow, this girl really likes me. And then not long after that, we started dating. So, yes, I missed red flag number 1, dating a coworker. Red flag number 2 before we had even gone out on our first date, she had sat me down. We were having lunch together, and she's like, "I just want to tell you that I I have a kid." I was like, "Okay," and then she goes, "I have 2 kids." I was like, I have 3 kids." And then I was like, that's so dumb. I was like, "Oh, really? What are their names?" So I was just so enamored with the fact that she made this effort for my birthday. And like I said, she was very attractive. And so, red flag number 2, like the multiple kids, which I found out shortly after that, it was multiple kids from at least 2 different guys. So these red flags are just flying past me left and right, and I had no idea. So she was the first single mom I had ever dated. And again, me, mid-20s, I was like, "Oh, let's see how it goes." So we started dating. The very first date, it was, we went out for dinner. I invited her back to my place, and I honestly didn't bring her back to really try anything like too over the top. I was like, I don't know, we'll watch a movie or whatever. Now that, the kids call it Netflix and chill. I certainly wasn't pushing for anything, but her very flirty behavior continued after we got back to my place. And we did, in fact, end up having sex after our first date. So that's red flag number 3. So to review, dating a coworker, multiple kids from different guys, sex on the first date. Yeah, I'm knocking them out of the park at this point. I'm not even in the slightest bit kind of red pilled and aware of what's happening to me. And as it turned out, as our relationship started to blossom, she was fun. I mean, she was fun in the way that, a mid-20s guy wants an attractive girl to be fun, which is, crazy in the head, crazy in the bed. I mean, she was kind of up for just about anything. She kind of let me do just about anything I wanted to do. So I was having a great time. And I really wasn't looking at it like, hey, I need to be careful. This is a single mom, like whatever kids get attached to. I don't know. I was not thinking at all. Maybe I was the crazy one, right? Maybe I got this story backwards. Anyways, so here's where this is actually the story that I wanted to tell. Is about 2 weeks into our dating relationship. I remember I was talking to her. We weren't living together or anything. It was only 2 weeks in. And we were talking about what we were going to do for that evening. And she said that she was going to the gym with her friend. And I said, "Who's your friend?" And she said, "Oh, his name is, such." I don't remember what the guy's name was. And but I said, "Oh, it's a guy." She's like, "Yeah, we've been going to the gym for a long time now." And I was like, okay. Is he gay? And she's like, "No." She's like, "I'm allowed to have friends, I can have friends." And that's true. Like, a lot of people make that mistake when they get into a relationship, that whatever they were doing before that other person, that needs to stop. And that, that's for the most part wrong. And I didn't want to be one of those guys that, dragging his knuckles and being like, "Well, I forbid you from seeing any of the men. When you're with me, you're my lady now." I probably should have. And I think that's kind of what this girl needed. But, I wanted to be progressive, and I didn't want to seem like I was insecure. So I was like, "Well, I don't really approve of that, but, I mean, you're a grown woman. You can make your own decisions." And that was it. It wasn't a fight or anything. I mean, she's like, "Yeah, it's no big deal. He's just my friend." So we ended up, I can't remember if it was that very night or the next day. It was really fast. But I remember she called me. And she said, "Hey, are you going to be coming over this evening?" She's like, "I'd like to see you." And I said, "Oh, yeah, of course." Because me and my dopey head, I'm like, all right, getting a booty call. So I went over to her place, and I remember she like dumped her kids off at like a friend's house or something. So I totally thought that, I was going to smash that night. And we were she had a little terrace on her apartment. So we were standing out there. And she says, "I want to show you something, but you have to promise that you're not going to get angry." And I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, I'm not going to promise anything because I have no idea what you're going to say to me." And she just kind of looked at me for a second, and then she said, "Okay." And she had a scarf on. So she took the scarf off, and she had all these bruises around her neck. Let me just say right away that however I end up telling this story from this point on, I never advocate violence towards anyone. Women, men, especially women, anyone. I don't want anything bad to happen to people. But she knew I was going to be mad because I had said to her, well, I'm not fond of this idea of you going to the gym with this other guy. If he's not gay, then he's trying to get with you. I think all guys kind of have that thought. So she knew I'd be upset. And she says, yeah, so when I told him that I had a new boyfriend, he got really mad and he put his hands on my throat and he pushed me up against the railing on the terrace. So I guess that meant he was over at her place. Maybe I guess he went over there to pick her up. That's what I'm guessing. And she must have said to him, "Oh, I just want to let you know I'm dating a new guy." And according to her, that guy flew off the handle and he choked her out. So I said, "Holy crap!" I said, "Well, we got to go to the police. You got to make a report." And that's where things got crazy. That's where she begged. She broke down into tears. And she said, no, I don't want to go to the police. If my brother finds out that this guy attacked me, he'll show up at his place with a gun. We can't do that. Me being, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm sure I was still thinking a little bit with the lower head. And I was like, well, I don't want to break up with her because the sex has just been too good. What should I do? So I kind of went along with it. And I was like, all right, we're not going to go to the police, but I don't want you seeing that guy ever again. Who knows if she actually did or not after we broke up, or I don't know, maybe she was stepping out on me. Who knows? But, yeah, she claimed that some guy had just completely attacked her and, she didn't want to file a police report or make a big deal about it. And at the time, kind of to myself, I was thinking, well, this girl's got some pretty serious emotional issues going on. Why she would allow herself to be a victim like that doesn't make any sense to me. And what ended up happening was every time that girl called me, even though she always seemed super upbeat and friendly and still flirty at work, all of her voicemail messages to me were basically like, hey, I have a problem. Where are you? Would you please call me? I need to see you. So all of her messages just stressed me out. I would certainly not admit to being the most mature about things because at least for a few months anyways, I would go to her. It would always be some kind of non-issue problem, I would say. And then we'd end up having sex. I was kind of putting up with it, I guess. That sounds insensitive. I don't mean it to be insensitive. After a while, it just got to be too much. Every time I saw that she had left a message, it was just such a downer. And so I did what any upstanding man would do, and that is I just started ignoring her. And eventually, she was like, hey, we need to talk. And this happened at work too. We were at lunch, and she said, hey, I don't think it's working out because, you're kind of non-existent. You don't respond to my issues, and, I can't live my life like that. And, because of my children, I got to focus on them. Sure, there was a part of my ego that was kind of stung by that because even with everything that was happening, I was still kind of like, she's lucky to be with me. I'm not the one that, a guy's attacking her. I had no guys attacking me. I also knew, I was like, how can I get out of this relationship without potentially making this girl try and commit suicide? I really thought she was kind of heading in that direction. I don't want to elaborate onto some of the other crazy things that she had said to me during our very brief but torrid romance. But she said some nutty stuff to me that really did kind of make me worry about her well-being and the well-being of her kids. And where this story ends is me now in 2020 reflecting back on this. And because, I've been watching all these MGTOW videos and, kind of reading these romance novels about women stepping out on their guys, it got me thinking, I might have had that story about her getting attacked, quote unquote, all wrong. And it could very well be that even though she and I were dating, she might have just had really rough sex with that guy. It would kind of explain why he was up in her place, because if he was just picking her up to take her to the gym, why wouldn't he just give her a shout out when he got to her place? He was up there, and maybe they were just going at it We know that she was promiscuous just based on the number of kids and just how fast she was willing to jump into the sack with me. I almost have to wonder if that's what happened. Is, she and I were dating, but, she probably had, another good looking guy that, she'd been friends with for a while. And while I will say that because we worked together, I don't ever recall seeing her with bruises on her. I obviously didn't know her for, a pretty fair amount of time before we dated, so maybe she did and she was just covering it up. So that's my story about my crazy ex. Could very well be that, she just strung me along and I was just too dense. And yeah, I admit it, I missed all the red flags. I was just happy that, a pretty girl was, maybe I was thirsty. That's what the MGTOW people say. He's like, you were a thirsty beta. You were just happy some girl was paying attention to you. And I was, and she was giving it up like real easy, and I was having a good time. Yeah, I almost shudder to think that, I might have been getting some pretty sloppy seconds like the whole time that we were together. Maybe she was still like getting with that guy or some other guys, because that seemed to be her MO. And yeah, I was just clueless. Chalk that one up to experience. And what happens when you're thinking with your smaller head.